Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Double down your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. We're moving into the future, one block at a time.
Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. The early days of cryptocurrency were predominantly fueled by ideologically motivated people with a libertarian mindset. They were looking for an alternative to the traditional financial system, something that could offer them cheap and fast payments that they could control. Bitcoin was that solution for them. However, over time, Bitcoin went mainstream, and this saw a lot of those early libertarian-minded folks ceding control to big businesses and retail investors, with many of them fading back into the woodwork entirely. But some of them found a new place to call home, a coin and blockchain that was built entirely around the principles of financial freedom and privacy. This is the story of Monero. Oh baby, is this ever going to be a fun ride? I got into cryptocurrency back in late 2012 and was part of that early libertarian-minded cohort that was looking for something better than the Canadian dollars in my bank account. Back then, there were so few people involved in Bitcoin that we all pretty much just got along to get things done. There was very little fighting. It was actually a pretty cool time to be involved in the space. To be an early adopter of such a radically new technology meant that you probably weren't financially motivated. Because to be honest, there really just wasn't that much money to be had back then. It didn't matter to many of us. We just wanted an alternative to the fiat currency system that had failed so many people. No matter where in the world we hailed from, we had all come together for one reason. As Bitcoin gained more attention and acceptance by the masses, the space that it had once filled, which focused exclusively on financial privacy and freedom, was now void. Something was bound to rise up during the early altcoin days looking to fill this void. And sure enough, in April of 2014, that's exactly what happened. Enter Monero. Monero, or XMR as it's known by its ticker symbol, is a privacy-focused cryptocurrency that was launched on April 18, 2014 by a core group of developers led by Riccardo Spagni. It was originally called Bitmonero. However, that name quickly evolved as there was a falling out between the team members early on regarding some controversial changes that were proposed. Because there was no compromise to be had in the end, the project split into two, and the new fork was called Monero. On April 25, 2014, the Monero mainnet was successfully launched and was well received by the community on the Bitcoin Talk forum. I actually remember seeing this announcement back in the day and being pretty intrigued about the newest altcoin on the block. Slight pun intended there. Monero's origins stem from it being a fork of Bitcoin, which is itself a privacy-focused altcoin. Monero was pre-announced and had no ICO or pre-mine, and this is exactly what hardcore CryptoNotes back in the day were all about. Unlike Bitcoin, Monero uses a proof-of-work algorithm called RandomX. RandomX is specifically designed to be CPU-friendly, while mitigating the effectiveness of ASIC mining machines. ASIC standing for Application-Specific Integrated Circuit. What this meant was that large mining operations would no longer have the advantage over the average user, as their more advanced mining machines were now running into some pretty serious ASIC resistance. This helped drive home the point that Monero really was a coin that was by the people, for the people. The secret sauce behind Monero's privacy pitch came in the form of CryptoNote, a technology that was developed in the hopes of improving upon the perceived weaknesses that popular coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin all suffered from. Without going into too much technical detail, the CryptoNote protocol greatly improves the privacy and anonymity of cryptocurrencies. CryptoNote-supported coins make it near impossible for outsiders to identify which party sent coins and which party received coins on the blockchain. You don't know who sent it, and you don't know who received it. Beyond this, Monero also introduced the RingCT technology, with the CT standing for Confidential Transactions. This would take a number of transactions and group it into a ring formation, making it basically impossible for an outsider to determine how much money was sent for any given transaction. So if you're keeping score here, Monero is pretty much as private can get. Now that we've got the basics of Monero out of the way, let's get back to our story. By the time 2015 came around, Monero had released improved versions of its wallet. The core team addressed future funding challenges by announcing the FFS, or Forum Funding System. This allowed developers to propose new work that was required to be done on the blockchain and receive funding from the community to get that work done. As 2016 came into focus, Monero was beginning to see serious traction on the darknet markets due to its privacy features, which led to a noticeable increase in adoption around this time. One example of this can be seen in XMR's market cap, which in February eclipsed the $10 million mark for the very first time. And by August, Monero breached the $100 million market cap threshold. However, there would be many more records broken in this area in the years that followed. Another great example of Monero's rapid growth could be seen on September 1st when it received a rather compelling endorsement. A darknet market on the Tor network called Alpha Bay announced that they were going to be implementing Monero due to the overwhelming demand from their user base. And right after this, another darknet market called Oasis Market followed suit, announcing that they too would be adding Monero soon. These announcements were actually picked up in the mainstream news cycle as Motherboard and ZDNet picked up the stories, helping spur more adoption. 2017 saw the next great bull market in crypto take place, and was it ever something to live through? Monero was in a great place to capitalize on all this influx of new users and capital investment as it was launched at the very end of the previous bull market in 2013. The market cap went ballistic, reaching a high of $6.5 billion US. Yeah, bonkers. The price of a single coin, which for years toiled under the $1 US mark, soared to a euphoric high of $422 US. Suffice to say, if you were bullish on privacy and were holding Monero since the early days, then you are now looking at the potential of early retirement. Monero also used 2017 to formally introduce the RingCT technology, which, as we've previously established, helps hide the transaction amounts of Monero being sent across the network. This helped fuel more growth for the coin because at this point, if you were using Monero, no one could really find out what you were doing. Monero was now the undisputed king of the crypto and blockchain world. By the time 2018 came calling, the bull market was running out of steam. However, that didn't stop the Monero team from continuously pumping out new innovative ideas that helped maintain their users' anonymity. In August of that year, the long-awaited alpha release of the Kovri project took place at DEF CON. The project's goal was to make it virtually impossible to deduct information about transactions, concealing your geographical location via ITP routing. Basically, it would hide the IP address of the node that was first broadcasting your transaction on the blockchain, and in doing so would make it even harder for them to discover what your own IP address was as a sender of that transaction. It's worth noting that by now, a whole new genre within crypto had emerged in the form of privacy coins. It was now its own category within crypto and had some big name projects in the ranks, such as Dash, Zcash, and of course, Monero. It got so popular that investors began to update their investment strategy to ensure that their portfolios had exposure to the privacy coin sector. While 2019 wasn't a banner year for cryptocurrencies in terms of market action, it did have some serious developments that greatly impacted Monero. The G20 summit in Japan brought news that sent chills down the spines of many in the cryptosphere. The Financial Actions Task Force released regulations aimed at cracking down on what they felt was a sea of money laundering, tax evasion, and terrorist funding, all through the use of cryptocurrencies. This was bad news for any and all privacy coins, especially Monero. What came next was a sizable amount of pressure being applied to crypto exchanges to delist all privacy coins, lest they be accused of helping facilitate all of the crimes that the authorities thought crypto was responsible for. And thus began a series of exchange delistings for Monero, with BitBay being one of them to do so after the new regulations were laid out. As you can imagine, this did nothing good for Monero's reputation, along with its price and trading volume, as slowly but surely it was finding fewer and fewer places to be traded. To the surprise of virtually no one, soon after this news came out, Riccardo Spagni, or Fluffy Pony as he's better known in the industry, decided to leave while the leaving was good and announced that he would be stepping down from his role as lead maintainer. Despite this setback, the Monero team just kept chugging along, putting out new updates for the blockchain. One of the most noteworthy was the move away from the CryptoNote algorithm to the RandomX algorithm that is still in use to this very day. This is basically what 2019 consisted of, and as we approach the new decade, a very real trend starts to come into focus. While Monero spent its early years mostly getting praised for its innovative privacy features, things had now changed, and this script was getting completely flipped. You see, by 2020, government and big businesses were now involved in cryptocurrency at seemingly every single level. And unfortunately, as history shows, over time, what the average person wants is often at odds with what government and large businesses want. And these entities do not like privacy, at least when it's not theirs. especially governments. In fact, they're seemingly obsessed with knowing every single thing that we do in our daily lives. And that's why around this time in Monero's history, all those innovative privacy features start to become a real pain point for the project. Case in point, on April 28, 2020, news hit about the arrest of Norwegian billionaire Tom Hagen. He was considered a suspect in the murder of his wife, who had been kidnapped back in 2018. So what does this have to do with Monero? Well, as it turns out, a ransom note was found at the house at the time of the event demanding $10 million in Monero for the safe return of Hagen's kidnapped wife. So this is another example of Monero's strong privacy features being used against it in the media. By the time the calendar flipped over to 2021, the world was now ready for a brand new bull market in crypto, one that would see NFTs or non-fungible tokens be showcased as a centerpiece. Monero benefited from all this market action, hitting an all-time high price of $517 per coin in May of 2021, exceeding the $8.6 billion market cap threshold. A few months later, Monero once again found itself in the news, except this time it wasn't anything that Monero was directly responsible for. On July 20th, Riccardo Spagni, or Fluffy Pony, was arrested for crimes pertaining to fraud. He had stolen $100,000 from a previous employer by generating fake invoices from imaginary companies and then routing the funds back to his personal account. Ah yes, that's real classy. This didn't help Monero's reputation that, given at the time, Fluffy Pony was by far the most visible public figure associated with the project. As 2021 was turning into 2022, the bull market was ceding control to the bear, and market action died down considerably. Monero continued to bring out new features centered around improved user experience, scalability, and, wait for it, better privacy. The exchange delistings kept coming too, with major players like Huobi and Binance deciding to drop the anvil down on Monero and other privacy coins. 2023 hasn't brought much change to the overall narrative either. XMR still enjoys a high ranking in the overall crypto landscape, often finding itself in the top 25 of coins. Given the pending onslaught of CBDCs or central bank digital currencies that put a high importance on financial transparency, it's unlikely that we'll see the attacks on privacy coins like Monero stopping anytime soon. There is a very real battle being fought right now across the world for freedom and the right to transact in a private manner. Governments will tell you that if you're not doing anything wrong, then you've got nothing to hide. But there is an identifiable problem with this mindset. First off, governments are famously known for changing the definitions of what is acceptable and unacceptable. Secondly, they've got a pretty bad reputation for doing a lot of the shady things they seem so concerned about all of us doing. Also, there's a heck of a lot of people out there that aren't doing anything illegal, yet they still value their financial privacy. But as governments continue to strip away rights, freedoms, and privacy on an individual level, I think that the human spirit will always rise to the challenge and find ways of liberating itself around these decrees. This is all to say that I think there's always going to be a market for privacy coins, because the ability to transact privately is something that's been in our lives since the dawn of time. I don't know about you, but I would rather keep my freedoms instead of exchanging them for what would be basically a perceived increase in security. Regardless of how the future plays out, we can say one thing for sure. Monero has become a major player in the blockchain space by virtue of focusing all of its efforts around one compelling use case, and that's privacy. Its past and present pretty much ensure that no matter what happens next, it will go down in history as one of the true pioneers in crypto. I hope you've enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.